Hello and welcome to the Unafraid podcast. I thought I would take a few moments to tell you a little bit about who I am, what this show is about, and how exactly this podcast came about. So I'm your woman behind the microphone, Kelsey. I'm a wife to an amazing husband and a mother to one beautiful blessing of a daughter. This show is going to have devotionals, testimonies, and whatever else God leads me to upload. This is me stepping out in obedience and faith, being unafraid to do what God asks. My hope is that this podcast can be some salt and light into your life. This is not something I would normally do, but over the last month or two, I have felt God kind of nudging me in the direction of making this podcast. It started with me posting a few things on my Facebook page and then turned into a thought rattling around in my brain that wouldn't seem to go away. I prayed and prayed about it and finally said, Lord, if this is you, I want to be obedient, but I don't even know where to start. Almost immediately, I had the thought of, what about the posts I've already written, just in audio form? To which I then said, okay, but I will need a title before I could even begin recording, so I asked God to give me a title if this was something He wanted me to do. Over the next couple of days, I wrote down about 10 different possible titles, 2 of which I really seemed to gravitate towards, but I told God that I didn't want to move unless I knew without any doubt that I had the title I was supposed to have. Again, assuming this was indeed a God idea, not just a random idea floating about my head. So I began praying for clarity. God, show me which of these titles is the right one if you want me to move forward. I had someone else pray with me one night, and as I got in my car to head home, I knew without a doubt that the title would be Unafraid. This title has meaning to me. I have struggled with severe depression and anxiety for most of my life, and in the last 2 or 3 years, I would say that it has been at the worst it has ever been. In fact, it would seem that it is Satan's weapon of choice against me whenever God is doing something in my life. Fear in differing forms seem to take me over and keep me from living my life to the fullest and doing things that I feel led to do. In fact, on occasion, I may or may not have sat and had arguments with God about why I couldn't possibly do that thing He was asking me to do. I may or may not have given a long list of reasons why I couldn't and resisted to the point of nausea before finally giving in, and even then, the fear remained. However, over the last 6 months or so, I think, I have dived into His Word deeper than ever before. I have been seeking Him diligently and intentionally as a priority of my day pretty much every single day. I stay in a constant conversation with Him. I have been learning about the authority that lies within me as a believer, the same authority that Jesus had in Him. I have finally grasped that all of my sins were covered on the cross. My life has been drastically changed over these last 6 months, and I am for it. Fear is a spirit. And whenever I feel it taking over, I say out loud, I command any spirit of fear out of me and into the pit of hell in Jesus' name. I rebuke the enemy out loud. None of this, by the way, is in the vicinity of my comfort zone, but I'm learning to get comfortable in the uncomfortable, if that makes any sense at all. So Unafraid seems a fitting title to me. Anxiety has ruled my life for years. Not anymore. I want to go forth courageously. When God tells me to move, I want to be obedient and unafraid because I know who goes before me and I know that He is in control and that He has plans to prosper me, not to harm me. So unafraid it was. Then, as if to confirm that it was truly God making me sure of this title, a thought popped into my head of how I would end the episodes, and I even got excited about it. I said out loud as I drove home, "Oh, that's good." I didn't even think about needing a way to end out the episodes. It was as if the thought wasn't even my own. So I moved forward. I went home that night. I recorded the first 3 episodes of Unafraid. I thought, I don't know if this is actually going to be a real podcast or if God is just testing my obedience to see if I will record the episodes when He asks. I asked, what would I put on it? He said, how about the things I've already given? I said, okay, well, I need a title if I'm going to move forward before I can record the episodes. He said, call it Unafraid. I recorded the podcasts and I said, okay, God, if I'm going to post these, I need a graphic. The thing that will be the logo, the thumbnail, the screen, the image that will be associated with it. God began forming the image in my head, though I needed more clarity on it. Several days later, the image you see on this podcast was made. It's been interesting. So I edited my first episode and put the image on it. I went and created an email and some other accounts for this podcast. All of it went off without issue. So here we are. I'm interested to see what God does through this podcast, and I hope that you will return for each episode and join me in this journey. I'm glad you're here, and I hope that this podcast will truly bring some salt and light into your life. Thank you for listening. Be sure to share, and remember to go forward with courage and boldness, because God goes before you so that you can always go forth unafraid. See you soon.